Welcome back to the comic verse, everyone. This week, Captain America Brave New World released, and it included General Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, aka the Red Hulk, as one of the main characters played by Harrison Ford. This interpretation of the Red Hulk on the big screen is a very liberal variation of the comic book original. So, to see just how far Marvel Studios strayed from the source material, let's take a look back at his initial run in the Marvel comic book universe. But before we do, remember to like, subscribe, comment, and share the video out. It really helps out the channel each and every week. The Red Hulk is a relatively new comic book character, first appearing in 2008 in his very own run simply called Hulk. The story arc that began in issue number 1, which kept the secret identity of the Red Hulk a closely guarded secret, concluded over 2 years later with issues number 23 and 24 of that same title. In it, we are presented with the reveal of who the Red Hulk is, a backstory which spans all the way back to the very first issue of the original Incredible Hulk, and culminates with a showdown between the Red Hulk and our original Jolly Green Giant. We begin with issue number 23, years ago, in Gary, Indiana. Thaddeus Ross remembers when he was 16, already a skilled pilot and performing at air shows for money, when he had his first major accident, when he died the first time. He reminds those listening that people do not pay money to see him fly, they pay money for the chance to see him crash. The general public got their money's worth that day. The carnival doctor pronounced him dead when they pulled him from the wreckage, so it was a surprise to everyone when he opened his eyes in the ambulance a few moments later. The next few years were spent healing a broken back and learning to walk again. As Ross's tale continues, we see our narrator lying in a cell in the Hellcarrier, home of the Intelligentsia, a group of genius-level supercriminals. Ross is a beaten man, determined to find the one man he hates the most because he needs his help, Bruce Banner. Just then, a familiar green foot stomps down in front of his face. It is the cyborg version of the Incredible Hulk, a weapon of the Intelligentsia, and he is there to kill Thaddeus Ross. We are then transported back to Gamma Base, New Mexico. A younger General Ross is overseeing the testing of a new gamma radiation bomb. It is not where he wants to be. He would rather be in combat, commanding troops instead of babysitting a scientist, a doctor named Bruce Banner. However, Ross is distracted by the appearance of his daughter Betty, Bruce's love. This distraction is enough for Ross to miss the fact that Bruce is still out on the tarmac when the gamma bomb detonates. For General Ross, the problem was not the apparent death of Banner, but the inquiry and questioning of his leadership that would follow. He blamed Betty for being there. He blamed Banner for just being a doctor, a milksop not worthy of military honor. However, later on, Ross's world would be turned upside down. The Hulk would appear for the very first time at Ross's home and judge General Ross for himself, a total disregard of respect for the senior officer. The Hulk would flick Ross away like a fly, and although his hatred for the Hulk was born that night, what he never told anyone, not even his daughter Betty, was that he coveted the raw power that he saw in the beast, a weapon of mass destruction, and he had to have it. Back to modern day in the Hellcarrier, Cyborg Hulk has now grasped Ross and began to squeeze the life from him. Still, Ross remains defiant. Ross tells us that for him, might makes right. It's the American way. And just when his end is apparent, Ross remembers all the times the Hulk triumphed over him, making him look foolish, and that the United States cannot afford to look foolish. We then see in the not-so-distant past, at Hulkbuster Base's Gamma prison facility, administered by General Ross, the supervillain, MODOK, which stands for Mechanized Organism Designed Only to Kill, and member of the Intelligentsia, probing Ross's mind. He tells Ross that the two of them have the same goal, to kill the Hulk, and that the best chance they have is for Ross to release the Abomination, formerly Emil Blonsky, a soldier who transformed himself using gamma radiation just like Banner, but he used too much. Ross tells MODOK that it would be treason to release the monster, but still, his hatred for the Hulk overcomes his common sense, and Ross agrees. It does not work. The Abomination is beaten by the Hulk, and worse, Betty Ross was caught in the middle, and now Betty knows her father crossed a line. He had to have been the one to release the Abomination, and she is furious with her father, and their relationship suffers from that point on, as Betty shuts him out of her life. For Ross, even though he always wanted to see the kind of fire and determination in his daughter that he himself carried, he then realized that he hated the fact that she could be as cold and calculating as he is. Soon after that, General Ross, sitting in his Washington, D.C. office, understands that he has lost his daughter, the only family he had left, and he had betrayed his country. the only thing he truly believed in. He contemplates ending it all, but for Ross, that's a coward's way out. And besides, that would mean that the Hulk had won. Back to present day in the Helicarrier, we learn that the treason charges were never filed, everything being blamed on MODOK. And as we learn this, Ross reaches out to the cyborg Hulk and grabs him by the head. Ross begins to absorb the gamma energy from the cyborg Hulk, and we see for the first time General Thaddeus Ross transform into Red Hulk. We are then transported back to Hulkbuster Base. A little while after the Abomination incident, there was an attack, and Thaddeus Ross dies in Betty's arms, admitting his failures to her and professing his fatherly love before succumbing to his injuries. It would have been a good death, but even that was not to be. The body of Thaddeus Ross was taken by another member of the intelligentsia, the Leader, another gamma radiation enhanced individual. But instead of strength, the Leader gained intelligence. He marries Ross's body with the Redeemer armor, designed to stand against the Hulk. However, Ross's brain is not functional. He is nothing more than a vegetable, and is quickly defeated by the Hulk while under the Leader's control. And that should have been it. But Ross was revived once again by an alien race known as the Trojan, who enhanced the Leader's technology, which allowed General Ross to come back to life once again. Ross reunites with Betty and blesses her relationship with Bruce Banner, but still, his hatred for the Hulk remains. He has to be the one to destroy the Hulk, and now, as the Red Hulk, he tears apart Cyborg Hulk, more determined than ever to be the one that finishes the job. Again, back in the recent past, just after his latest resurrection, Ross watched as the world unraveled all around him. The Abomination murdered his daughter. The heroes of Earth betrayed the Hulk and sent him into deep space. Ross had become a father without a child, a general without a war, a man without purpose. But then, Captain America was assassinated. For Ross, he was America's one true patriot. As Thaddeus got wasted at the bar, he could not understand everyone's lack of respect by watching the footage of the assassination over and over. But then, something remarkable happened. Everything and everyone froze in place. The bartender spilling whiskey, the television blinking out, then the voice, telling Ross that they wanted to have a private conversation with him in the most efficient way. It was the Leader, MODOK. They had a proposal for Ross. The country was broken, but Ross had the tools to fix it, especially if he was the one in charge. They tell Ross that they have the ability to revive the dead in a better way than before, when they made Ross into a vegetable. Imagine if they could bring Betty, his daughter, back to life. Even that infuriates Ross. He does not trust these two, but then the Leader manipulates Ross by uttering the magic words. He tells Ross that someday the Hulk will return. Does he want to be ready or not? And that was all Ross needed to hear. The Hulk did return and declared war on the country. Ross engaged the monster in New York City. The plan involved using a satellite to bring the Hulk down. Tony Stark was supposed to be the one managing it, but the intelligentsia got to it first. They blasted the Hulk with a powerful beam that extracted all of his gamma radiation, collecting it for the cathexis ray at another location. All that remained in the crater afterwards was Bruce Banner. Just several months ago at Gamma Base, Samson, MODOK, the Leader, and Ross monitors Banner in stasis. Betty was alive again, but in isolation. Unbeknownst to Ross, she was experimented on with gamma radiation herself, the results to be seen later. And although Ross wanted to see his daughter, the Leader reminded Ross that first things first, his country still needed him. The plan? To use the cathexis ray to transfer all of the stored gamma radiation to General Ross, which creates the Red Hulk. A Hulk that had similar healing factors and strength, but could also absorb energy from other sources. This is how the Red Hulk came to be. General Ross becoming that which he had hunted for so many years. The first mission, Dmitry, Russia. The Red Hulk hunts down the Abomination, beats him to a pulp, and uses a specialized gun to shoot him dead. Next up, bring down the Helicarrier, where the intelligentsia have left a life model decoy of Ross himself. This was to protect Ross's new alter ego. Then finally, a shot at the Incredible Hulk. But Ross himself admits he was too cocky this first time around, and every man, even a Hulk, needs to know his limitations. Worse, the latest Ross decoy lectures the Red Hulk on his big failure using MODOK's voice. For the Red Hulk, he had had enough of the intelligentsia, and sought the one person who could help him, his worst enemy, Bruce Banner. If anyone was smart enough to defeat the intelligentsia, it was that milksop Banner. First part of the plan, General Thaddeus Ross needed to die. Without Ross, the intelligentsia cannot be the public face of the government. 2 weeks ago, Banner reprogrammed the Redeemer armor, once famously worn by Ross, and has the Red Hulk smash it to bits in front of the Washington Monument. To the general public, Thaddeus Ross was now dead, and even though the plan was working, the Red Hulk still hated working with Bruce Banner. Now, back in the present day, the Red Hulk emerges from his prison to the flight deck of the Hellcarrier. He towers over the leader, who tells him that the original plan worked. General Talbot is in the White House getting ready to announce that the U.S. military has defeated a potential coup and is installing martial law. The leader tells him that it was supposed to be Ross in the Oval Office, but he went with Banner instead. The intelligentsia needed another general for the takeover to be complete. The Red Hulk smiles and agrees with everything the leader is saying. The question now, what does he need the leader for? He grabs the super-intelligent villain and drains all of the gamma radiation from his body, returning him to a normal human with normal intelligence. His own personal hell. He's ordinary. Meanwhile, across the country, General Talbot addresses the American public. He tells them the tale of internal conflict, of a failed coup, of a state of emergency being put in place, but that everyone should remain calm. Those are his last words as the oversized fist of the Red Hulk smashes him to pieces. He then pulls the head off of the general, revealing that he too is a life model decoy, and announces to the world that now he is in charge. Issue 24 picks up here with the title, The Final Chapter, World War Hulks. The Red Hulk, still addressing the world, promises not to disrupt the way things are, and that he will fix everything that is wrong. That is, until he is interrupted. The Incredible Hulk has arrived, smashing through the Oval Office. Now we have one man who has sacrificed everything in service to his country, and another, a man who had everything taken away from him in the name of science. Now, both ready to find out exactly who is the strongest. The Red Hulk strikes first as the two trade punches and insults. The Red Hulk is determined to save the country. The Incredible Hulk is determined to end the Red Hulk's reign of terror. The Incredible Hulk manages to bear hug the Red Hulk, and by this time, this fight has brought Jen Walters, the sensational She-Hulk, to the scene, as well as the Red She-Hulk, otherwise known as Betty Ross. And as they watch, the Incredible Hulk hopes that it will not come to having to kill Ross in front of his daughter. The Red Hulk counters by smashing the Hulk's nose, drawing green blood. The Hulk smiles, and the Red Hulk grasps him by the throat. And then the Hulk reminds his foe that he has always underestimated him. With one punch, the Red Hulk falls, and the Incredible Hulk begins to ground and pound, completely dominating his opponent. And with each strike, he reminds the Red Hulk of how he did this to the Abomination, cracking his skull before shooting him dead. Red She-Hulk pleads for Bruce to stop. She tries to intervene, but Jen Walters stops her, tells her that it's between those two to decide how this ends. Red She-Hulk backhands Jennifer, who clenches her fist and returns the strike, putting Betty down while reminding her that she is the sensational She-Hulk. Through bloody eyes, Ross sees his daughter being beaten. His rage intensifies, and he manages to break free only to be kicked high into the air. In this moment, Bruce tells his cousin to stop and make sure Betty is okay. Bruce then launches himself after the Red Hulk, who is crash-landed into the U.S. Treasury, where the Fatal Four are trying a heist of their own. They do the smart thing and run. The Incredible Hulk lands on top of the Red Hulk, but his rage is too powerful. Ross is able to drain radiation from Bruce, giving him more and more power. With both arms raised and fiery radiation pouring off of him, the Red Hulk brings down a tremendous hammer strike, screaming, "This is how it ends." The blast causes its own mushroom cloud to burst as the building and surrounding area is destroyed in a shockwave. The Red Hulk declares himself the strongest, but this is just for a moment. The Incredible Hulk rises from the crater and asks Ross, "That's all you got?" and then proclaims that this war is over, you're done, and unleashes the strongest thunderclap he has ever forged, sending the Red Hulk streaking backwards into the Lincoln Memorial. Ross is done, worn out, taken on too much punishment, and expended too much energy. The Incredible Hulk tells him that his surrender is unconditional. He reminds Ross that he cannot shrink down to his human form anymore. He already got the hero's funeral, and the country would then see him for who he really is, a traitor. Ross reminds him that it was his idea to fake his own death, that Bruce must have been planning this all along, to which Bruce responds that he did not have anything to do with making him a monster. That was Ross's choice, and now it's all he has left. In the following days, Bruce Banner and Steve Rogers return to the rebuilt Gamma Base, now under Banner's control and manned by life model decoys who obey every command. As they descend into the prison level, the Hulk tells Steve that General Ross always idolized him. Steve is curious as to what his friend is hinting at. He reminds Steve that Ross is still a Hulk, with power and skills and a love of country. He's a patriot willing to sacrifice himself for his homeland, very similar to Steve Rogers himself. The Hulk tells Steve that he is doing this for Betty, not for the General. This is when the cell block doors open. We then see the Red Hulk sitting, smiling, and tells our two visitors, "I knew you'd get around to asking for my help." Thus ends the initial story arc of Red Hulk. He would continue to be a hero, an anti-hero, or a villain, depending on the day of the week for years to come. As you can see, the Thaddeus Ross and Red Hulk we see in the film has many inconsistencies with the one we originally get in the comic books. Still, all of the elements are there. A man willing to do anything in service to his nation. A man sometimes blind to the consequences of his actions and only focused on the results. It's up to you to decide if Marvel Studios and Disney delivered a proper version of this recent Marvel comic book character. I hope you enjoyed this look back at the Red Hulk, a little bit of his history and his motivations, and if you need more comic book fun right away, click on the thumbnail at the end of this video for our look back at KRYPTO, Superman's faithful dog who will make his big screen appearance this summer. As always, I thank you for watching. Remember, I'm still your reluctant gringo from somewhere south of the border. Salud and a huevo.